Alright, let's do this. It's time for the top 10 of Season 18. Or as I like to think of it, the top 5 plus 5 others. This was definitely one of the weirder lists process-wise. I took all 22 episodes, eliminated 2 right away, rewatched a dozen of them, eliminated another 4, and then agonized over the back half until I reached my 10 finalists. These are the final rankings I will confidently stand by, I guess. Here are my top 10 episodes of Season 18. I feel kinda weird about putting this treehouse on the list, as I don't care much for the Golem segment and have said so in the past. He doesn't rampage enough for it to be entertaining on that level, the deaths are mostly uninteresting, and the character angle is weak. I don't mind Fran Drescher, but why bring her in to do overdone nanny material? This is getting hard carried by the other 2 segments, which are both super fun. Homer as the Blob? How can you miss on that concept? I guess by letting Dr. Phil be in it. But it's so entertaining watching Homer go on a rampage, eating all of our favorite characters. Love this Lenny joke, by the way. The War of the Worlds parody, we get plenty of good material out of old-timey Simpsons and a surprisingly violent Homer. Anytime you can get Maurice LaMarche to do his Orson Welles, you've already won. This joke with the Foley artist is especially hilarious. I'm not a fan of the whole animal bit they do in the mud, but thankfully it's brief, and the aliens show up for some more chaos and Iraq War commentary. Bye, Chief Wiggum. Is this one of the stronger Treehouse of Horrors in Simpsons history? Not really. It's pretty average. But that's appropriate. That's why it's one of the more average episodes of Season 18. Hear me out. Romeo Old and Juliet is a bad concept for an episode. They literally made fun of the idea and then did it anyway. 0 out of 5 concept, I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul. But I think this is a pretty good execution on a bad idea. They leaned into how weird and off-putting this duo is, and got some novel Homer Patty action in there. Honestly, this is my favorite angle of the episode, and wish they leaned more into it, rather than going for the full marriage plot later. Homer and Patty having to team up is such a compelling concept. I do like the observational and domestic take on these two, and that Grandpa gives Selma that hopeful speech at the end. These two shouldn't have been together, but I do walk away from it feeling something about the characters, which is a rarity for this season. But whatever, you all know I put this on this list because of the Box Fort B-plot. I love this thing. It's so disposable, but it's nice seeing Bart and Lisa just doing something fun together like bored kids. Love the design of their fort, their armors, then the big Lord of the Rings battle. Yeah, there's a dragon, that's breaking reality. But I put this in the Leonard Nimoy category of minor fantastical jokes. So yeah, it's the rare example carried by its B-plot, but there's enough spice to the main story that I'll go to bat for this one. This is one of those episodes I often forget about, but always enjoy when I watch it. Sure, it trades in all those mafia cliches that they've milked dry in every other Fat Tony episode, but I appreciate what Michael brings to this kind of narrative. That we get these scenes of Fat Tony carpooling the kids, trying to relate to them and whatnot. In what other episode will you get Fat Tony and Milhouse talking to each other? Lisa plays the straight man well for this story, making the most out of yet another assistant role. Michael's actual character arc is on the shallow side of things, and always wish we got more of it. They instead expand the story to Homer and Bart mafia stuff, while fun is mostly a distraction. Feels like the writers realized they'd rather do this episode instead. I guess I wanted a little more Ratatouille in this Godfather plot. More of Michael's love of cooking juxtaposed with his setting. In the end, Michael poisoning them all is a quirky way to resolve things and sets them up for that homage at the end. I think they were dangerously close to this being top tier, just a couple tweaks here or there. But as is, it's a worthy addition to this list. Okay, time for a classic bad take from the real Gems. Upon first airing, I thought You Can't Always Say What You Want was better than 24 minutes. Spoiler warning, I don't anymore, but I still think this episode has a lot going for it. I mostly like it for the Kent Brockman action in Acts 2 and 3. Act 1 is basically a Shaggy dog story with so many opening set pieces, even Mike Scully would blush. By the time we get to Smartline, I totally get why Kent is so annoyed at this being a story about Homer buying ice cream. Don't get me wrong, the dentist office has some funny jokes, and an appearance from that State Farm commercial guy, but it's so disposable and pointless. Dentist, ice cream, media satire. The classical 3-act structure. The Fox News commentary is way too heavy-handed in some respects. It has the subtlety of an Adam McKay movie. But, much like those movies, I kind of enjoy how shouty and on the nose it is, how The Simpsons airing on Fox adds that extra layer. And, as mentioned in the retrospective, its ending is one of the weirdest things ever. It's kind of awful because of how much the story fizzles out, but I respect it, just because they totally committed to the meta-weirdness of the Fox ownership. I definitely file this episode away in the "it's better to be messy than boring" category. Is this a controversial pick, I wonder? I remember a lot of the Gil haters singling this one out, pointing to it as the show being creatively bankrupt. But I'm gonna stand up for old Gil here. Kill Gil contains a novel year-round format with a well-constructed Marge character arc. I know, Season 18 actually developed a character arc. It's amazing. I enjoy how Marge's story creeps up on us, how she does the typical thing by letting him stay for Christmas. But instead of handing off the plot to someone else, this decision dogs her the rest of the way. Marge is the kind of person who has trouble saying no, and Gil is exactly the type that would take advantage of it. I love those character duo discoveries. That wow, Marge and Gil are actually great foils. Then later, how she builds up her gumption to finally confront him, only to have missed her chance. Very relatable. Also, this episode has the Grumple, who absolutely rules, and I have no idea why. Maybe because he's such a hacky Grinch parody, it works? Maybe I just enjoy this joke? I don't know. I just know I want the Grumple in every Christmas episode. I will say that because the plot is designed to be annoying, I do find myself annoyed watching it, so maybe they did their job too well. So was anyone else surprised that Declan Desmond ended up being so much older than Homer and Marge? It's weird seeing him pop up again and suddenly having so much history with these characters. Still, I think the juice was worth the squeeze. Doing an homage to Michael Apted's Up series is an inspired concept. We get to see so many of our favorite characters over the years. So much lore to be harvested by nerdy YouTubers. That's honestly my favorite thing about it, and wish more characters could have been featured. The Professor Frink and Chief Wiggum stuff, while brief, are both super fun. Okay, maybe we don't need a Lenny segment. I could imagine a different version of this episode that is more like 22 short films. On the other hand, Homer's arc suits his character and grounds the story, so it makes sense to create room for him. His defensiveness over not being super successful is well conveyed, and it's heartwarming that this judgy filmmaker comes around. This ending joke is pretty annoying though. Essentially, Homer's backstory ends up being a sequence of random job jokes, which I guess is appropriate for season 18. I still prefer Mr. Desmond's first episode, but this was a worthy addition to his filmography. Yoko Chords is up here at number 4 for 2 reasons: the Dark Stanley sequence and the songs. Okay, I guess there are some legitimately great jokes too, but it's mostly for those 2 reasons. Ironically, I sometimes forget this is the Dark Stanley episode, just cause the Spunkler stuff dominates things so much. As a means to get the story going, it's hard to beat something like this. The art is so stylish. I totally get why they do similar stuff in those later Treehouse of Horrors. As for the songs, I think they're even better than the ones in The President Wore Pearls. Although maybe I'm just saying I prefer The Sound of Music to Evita. Anyway, love the cheesy showmanship of Skinner and Chalmers in their number, and the Spuckler Kids song, while stereotypical for them, is cute and charming. My favorite is definitely Lisa's Culture song, as it effortlessly whisks us around to different settings and characters. The actual plot with Krusty is kinda whatever. It's your typical Krusty business exploitation with a bizarre Brandine ending. But it's functional and keeps things moving. I feel similarly about Bart's therapy B-plot. It's fine, I like it. He bonds with his therapist and Marge saves the day. There's not much to it, but it's a worthy addition to the episode. A nice change of pace. I still can't believe Marge Gamer turned out as good as it did. I don't know if it has just aged well due to early internet and MMO nostalgia, or if Marge Bart plots are still a novelty, or what. This seems like the kind of thing we would make fun of for being a relic. I think its sense of balance is what elevates this episode. They get to do all those creative and fun fantasy setups with a bit of observational gamer humor thrown in. We get so many cute Marge moments as she clumsily navigates this world. But the story isn't terminally online. There's a legitimate conflict going on in the Simpson household. Marge's new little hobby is invading Bart's space. He is right to be frustrated by it. Having Bart kill her character by accident is such a smart choice, raising the stakes of the conflict without making him a total asshole. It's funny how over it Bart is by the end. The Homer-Lisa soccer B-plot is generally good, but it doesn't wow me or anything. It's cool how Homer eventually rises to the occasion, and they do jokes about soccer flopping. Americans generally don't care about soccer, but we love flopping jokes. For once, Lisa ends up being in the wrong, so we get a different kind of ending dynamic. Also, the Virgin Mary stuff is so over the top, it's amazing. I guess my big gripe is Ronaldo randomly showing up. His guest appearance in this down-to-earth story is pretty annoying. Such is middle-era Simpsons. "24 minutes is such an ambitious concept, it kinda has to be up here this high in the rankings. Adapting 24 into a Simpsons episode is no easy feat, and they rose to the occasion. We get all those cool split screens throughout, meticulously animated while matching the source material's style. Adapting a terrorism plot to Springfield Elementary is a fun and offbeat choice. It maintains tension and stakes, especially in Act 3, while not being too heavy where it stops being fun. Martin being the mole is way funnier because his ant farm is in danger, instead of, like, his parents being kidnapped. They hit that perfect balance of silly dramatic that you want. It also scratches some of that Trilogy of Error itch, where it's fun seeing various characters all converge on the school. They didn't have to do Homer-Marge subplots, but they add an extra layer of complexity that keeps things from becoming stale. Add one more example to the Marge Protecting Bart video essay. I used to be lower on this episode because it's still somewhat of an awkward adaptation, where you have to buy into the initial premise of the school having a CTU unit, and then the writers have to manipulate Bart into the Jack Bauer role and have him work for the school and beat up Nelson. Bart shouldn't be able to beat up Nelson. Someone on Twitter accused me of being a power scaler, and okay, you got me there. I concede that point. As weird as this premise is, they do justify it, and it's not that outside the realm of Simpsons plot stretchiness. I'll stop being nitpicky. 24 minutes is a damn cool episode. I look forward to the sequel, where Maggie gets trapped by mountain lions. Whatever, man. I know what you're thinking. This is just that pro-Nelson bias again. Well, you know why this channel is pro-Nelson? Because most of his later Spotlight episodes are good. For some reason, The Simpsons excels at writing this guy. So what I think this episode does really well, similar to Sleeping with the Enemy, is portray Nelson's insecurities while keeping that comedic edge. I love his excitedness and patheticness at his birthday party, and how the two of them make the best of the situation. Nelson's unusually needy and obsessive in this episode, and it works to build conflict between him and Bart. Who knew that kite flying could be so scandalous? On Bart's end, I appreciate that he gets a taste of the high life without it becoming a boring Bart becomes a bully story. There's an argument that it hurts the ending when Nelson calls him out for using him, but I like that they underplay this angle. It makes Nelson's final call out more shocking. You're not exactly sure what to expect from him. I'm not crazy about the Act 3 danger thing, but whatever. At least we get to make fun of Skinner. In addition, we get an extremely cute Homer-Lisa B-plot with cool fantasy sequences. I have never cared about Harry Potter ever, and even I'm charmed by this thing. Me, that guy who always gets yelled at in the wand shop for tugging at the boxes. People were so excited for those books, and talking about the shocking ending where Snoop kills Dumbledore or whatever it was. Homer obsessively reading ahead and then changing the ending, with a Popeye parody no less, is so in character for him. It's ridiculous and is the cutest thing ever. Good job, Simpsons. You got me invested in a Harry Potter parody. That's the real reason this episode deserves to be number 1. Just missing out on this list were Revenge is a Dish Best Served 3 Times at number 15, Stop or My Dog Will Shoot at number 14, Please Homer Don't Hammer Him at number 13, G.I. Joe at number 12, and Ice Cream of Margie with the light blue hair as the Bubble episode. I was so close to putting the ice cream episode on the list because I always enjoy the duo job storylines, but the Homer-Marge conflict in Act 3 drives me up the wall. It's so contrived and unconvincing. It's like Bart gets hit by a car levels of try-hard relationship drama. Fun job stuff, clunky plot. As always, let me know in the comments what your favorite episodes of Season 18 are and how you'd rank them. Are any of my picks overrated? Which would you prefer to put on the list? Also, I apologize for saying I was figuring out which of Homer's jobs to rank and then not picking any of them. Are there any Homer Gets a Job episodes I like? Time to go back through my rankings. Next up, we have the soap opera world of Season 19, in which the series pretends to kill off Sideshow Bob, actually kills off Mona Simpson, and destroys Simpsons fans' sense of continuity. Season 19 is quietly one of the most experimental, so it should be fun to look at it again. As always, thanks for watching.